Take a look at the other author here, and you can assess for yourself, is this author taking an entirely opposing point of view, or are these texts just related by topic? Let's find out. I want you to pause the video, and I want you to read and identify this first paragraph, identifying the author's main claim, again, that important key element of the argument, as well as any evidence that the author uses to support his or her claim. Take a look in this first paragraph. Author 1 here says, well, the environmental impact is serious. However, the health effects are not. So this is author 2's point of view. When it comes to mercury in the environment, mercury environmental problems, real. But this health problem associated with the fillings, not so much. All right, let's continue reading. Go ahead and read paragraph 2. What further evidence does the author use to support his or her claims? Well, the author says, well, it's known people absorb a small amount. However, the author says most of this doesn't stay in the body. So here is some evidence. People absorb small amounts, but it's not significant. Most of this is excreted. And in fact, the author says there's no study. So in fact, the author 2's evidence is that there's a lack of evidence for the other position. So author 2 says there's just no evidence for the other point of view. Now Arthur makes another claim. Because these fillings last longer, this is preferable whenever there's no cosmetic reason. So now the author is providing evidence to support his or her claim here, which is that mercury amalgam fillings are safe. There's no health reason not to have them, especially if there is no cosmetic reason to have something else. Now, the author makes another claim in paragraph 3. So as you read paragraph 3, take a look. What new perspectives does this author introduce in paragraph 3, and what evidence does he or she use to support that particular claim? Well, our author up to this point has spent a lot of time talking about here's some evidence why the health impacts are minimal. And now the author shifts to focus on why the environmental impacts are real and cannot be ignored. In fact, the author uses this very strong word, must. So must is even stronger than should. If an author uses the word should, you're definitely paying attention because that introduces his or her opinion. If the author uses the word like must, same thing. Right? If it must happen, the author definitely feels strongly about this. The author is saying it must be regulated, and then provides some evidence from the EPA. So here's that statistic. The EPA says that this ends up in wastewater. All right, so we don't want to necessarily pay attention to what the statistic is, but it is important to note, okay, this is evidence, and this is evidence from a source of authority. Right? The EPA would definitely be an authority on environment. So we do have a statistic. We've asked ourselves, is this coming from a reliable source? And yes, it is. Okay. Now the author has more of, kind of elaborates on this a little bit, and there's that word again. Okay, mercury amalgam should remain available because, here's the reason, but every dental office must have a way to remove this. So this is the author's conclusion. Mercury amalgam, it's safe. Keep it. Here's the reason it's good, more durable than these others, but the environmental problems are real, so every dental office should have a way to address that. All right, on to some questions that just ask you about passage 2, following that strategy for strategic reading. So which statement best describes the supporting evidence in paragraph 3 of passage 2? Well, I've pulled paragraph 3 up here for you to take a look at. Review the evidence that was presented and match your answer up. Looking back from your notes, you know that this included that statistic from the EPA. So there it is. So what type of evidence is this? Well, it's a statistic, and it's a statistic from an authoritative source. And this matches up with answer choice D. It's a convincing statistic, and it's convincing because it comes from a reliable source. And that's what makes it, in fact,